What up, Fightful fam, and welcome to 1-2 Punch. Player 1, Shakiel Mahjouri. Player 2, Fernanda Pitbull Prates, because every Brazilian person with or without a P in their name has to have the nickname Pitbull. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? I mean, I actually like it because I think with the Prates, like I
Mm-hmm.
like the alliteration. So even though I'm firmly against the very generic nicknames, I'll take this one because I do think like that it goes with the general persona and name.
Yeah,
Hi.
I'll be honest. I try and put way too much thought into these nicknames, and like about 10 minutes out, I'm like, oh no, I totally forgot. But thank you for joining me. On a scale of like 1 to 10, how close was I on that last name?
That was a solid 8.
Eight.
Yeah,
I'll take an
really
eight.
good.
I'll take an eight.
Yeah.
It's the Iranian in me.
For
I
a
know how
first
to roll
time?
my R's. Yes. Okay, so let's jump right to it. Welcome, guys. This is 1-2 Punch. If you are a regular viewer of the show, thank you for being here as always. For those new to the program, let's just give a quick rundown of how this works. It's news talk on a win, lose, draw system. That means we're going to assign the week's biggest winners and losers before doing a preview for UFC 254. And just a disclaimer, winners and losers doesn't necessarily mean who won a fight or who lost a fight. It's basically just whose stock went up, whose stock went down. Without further ado, let me hit this intro and we will get right to it. Okay, as always, guys, please engage with us in the live chat. I see who I imagine to be Sean Rassap already tuning in. He says with a nickname like that, Fernanda will be headlining at least 7 Bellator events. Very possible. You
I
going
mean,
to
the
more?
145 division is like wide open, and I think I can make that
Here
with
to
a
think
little
it.
bit of yeah, a little bit of dehydration. So Bellator UFC, I'm here, I'm available already, nickname.
Ready to
So,
go.
you know, yeah, ready to go.
Love it. So, guys, please engage with us in the live chat. We'll get to your comments and questions. If you're feeling oh so generous on this gloomy Friday in Vancouver, Canada, a little super chat donation might warm my heart up. Of course, you're under no obligation. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell, tap like. These all go such long ways to helping the channel grow. You guys have been doing a tremendous job, and I can't tell you how much we appreciate it. That's enough of me being a soft person. Let's get to the action. And Fernanda, let me just start with this. Biggest winners of the week. We're going to get to it. I actually want to go the opposite way, start with our losers, because our winners kind of tie into 254. Conor McGregor and Leon Edwards, these guys have had rough weeks and months. And, you might say, well, guys, Conor McGregor is en route to a fight with Dustin Poirier. It's going to do huge numbers. What's the issue? The issue for me is not so much that Conor's not going to return, not going to fight. It's that, if anything, I think what the Conor Dustin situation and what Leon Edwards getting booted from the rankings has shown us is that fighters have absolutely no leverage against the UFC, no matter who you are. Conor wanted it in 2020, the Dustin Poirier fight, didn't get it. He wanted it in Texas, not happening. Coach John Kavanagh says he wants it a welterweight. Dana shuts him down at every turn, and yet we seem to sort of be on track to this fight. Has Conor McGregor lost any and all pull he has ever since UFC signed the ESPN deal?
I wouldn't say any. First of all, it's interesting because, well, you did mention that you were gonna bring up Conor McGregor in the losers of the week, and immediately I was like, "What the hell did he do this week?" Like scrolling through his, so I lost track. Oh man, does he punch some other person? Like I'm just lost in this situation. But I was sure you were gonna explain it to me, and I am there with your reasoning. I wouldn't go so far as to say any and all pull because I think the UFC sort of um dug themselves into a grave a little bit with him, right? Like I think it's changing, but for a couple of years there, like he was basically they were depositing all hope on him and
Mm,
their own lack of sort of foresight, I think, in terms of creating new stars, led them to a situation where they were resting too much on him. He realized it. So I don't think that's something that the UFC can undo. Like he's still, the way I see it, his biggest mainstream star. Um, but and I mean mainstream in terms of anybody on the streets knows him because you talk about Israel Adesanya. I think he's on his way also toward becoming one of those breakout stars, but I just don't think that anybody's quite there in terms of just the pay-per-views that Connor's gonna bring. Like Dana said that they were trending toward this pay-per-view overcoming the Khabib and Conor pay-per-view, which I don't know that I believe. I'll have to see it to believe it. Far be it from me to doubt the words of Dana White, but so I don't think that he has lost any and all pull. No, I do think that he still has some negotiating power, but he hasn't done his image a lot of favors outside the cage. And he hasn't been very active inside of it either. And I think the UFC had to sort of get creative because he forced their hand to that sense too by not being all that available and all that active. So yeah, he doesn't have as much leverage as before for sure, but I don't think he lost all of it.
Okay, fair enough. Now, let's also touch on Leon Edwards. Rough week for that man. And I discussed this with, I can't remember who, someone on a recent episode, but, Leon Edwards has kept holding out for a big win. Wait. We can't continue without addressing the utter mug. Can you please give me the backstory to this mug?
The backstory to this mug is actually very simple. I was at Bad Bath and Beyond, which doesn't exist in Brazil. Oh. But I'm in Mexico right now and they have it. So it was Christmas, basically. I was a child lost in that store. And I came across the holy grail of mugs. And under the little nipples, I don't know how you call that for cows. Is it still nipples? There's like this little support thingy. And it's great. So like it doesn't slip.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's the perfect mug.
That's incredible. I was telling you about the one I got for my girlfriend, which is tremendous. You have to actually see it to believe it, though. And a quick shout out from Joe Pearl, East Coast Canada in Toronto. It's nice and sunny here. I'm happy for you, Joe, but remember, you guys have like snow and ice basically through March, so I count myself lucky with the rain. Sorry, I got totally sidetracked here. Leon Edwards, he had been holding out for the fight against, Jorge Masvidal, Colby Covington, Gilbert Burns, Kamaru Usman, someone of that caliber. And he held out so long that the UFC has now removed him from the rankings for inactivity. First and foremost, do you think it was a reasonable move on the UFC's part?
No, but like, are we expecting reasonable at this point? Like, do we have those expectations? Because I don't. It was a predictable move, which is entirely different from reasonable. So I wouldn't say it was reasonable. I mean, I haven't stopped to do the math, but I'm pretty sure we've had much more inactive fighters that stayed in the rankings. So it did, to me, come across, and I can't tell for sure, but it did seem to me like sort of a power move or a way to sort of force his hand to take whatever fight that they want to give him right now.
Agreed. And I think someone had mentioned to me that Tatiana Suarez was at one point removed for inactivity. So, I don't think it's completely black and white. I think if you got someone of Conor's star power, they're always going to keep him in the rankings just for the sake of being able to, not that it's kind of meaningless on all ends, but I guess for the casual fan, it's nice to see that number next to someone's name. It tells a bit of a story if you're unfamiliar with the product. Leon technically has been inactive since about March 2019 and had turned down all the fights offered to him. So I would agree with you. It's 100% a power move on the UFC's part to try and sort of mitigate what sort of leverage he has. But the truth is also that he did turn down all the fights offered to him. Some were unreasonable fights, fighting Khamzat Chimaev, who's unranked, doesn't make sense for the number 3 guy in the world. Fighting Kamaru Usman on very short notice while you're locked down in London. Also can't really pin that on him. I will say, though, I do not agree with Leon Edwards turning down the Stephen Wonderboy Thompson fight. I've talked about this ad nauseum, but there's so many reasons that fight makes sense. One, it's number 3 versus number 5. 2, while Leon claimed that Wonderboy's recent loss to Pettis was the reason that Wonderboy doesn't deserve it, I don't really think that Leon Edwards' wins have aged super well. Now, at the time, beating Donald Cowboy Cerrone, who came off a Yancy Medeiros win and then went on a 3-fight winning streak, that's impressive. Beating Rafael Dos Anjos, who had bounced back with a win over Kevin Lee after losing to Usman and Covington, no shame there, impressive. But in the time he fought those guys, it was the 3 wins were Donald Cerrone, Gunnar Nelson, Rafael Dos Anjos. Gunnar Nelson lost the subsequent fight and hasn't been seen since. Cowboy has gone on the worst skid of his career, and Rafael Dos Anjos has fought only one more time and lost to Michael Chiesa. So those fights I don't think mean as much now as they did a year and a half ago. And I think Leon Edwards is thinking a little too highly of himself to turn down Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. What do you think?
I agree with you because I even after he turned out that fight, I joked, I posted a gif of like everyone to Leon Edwards, let me help you. Because at that point we were all like so and I totally agree with you to that back then that streak was sounded so meaningful, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it felt, I think, for so many of us like such a big injustice. And we're all very much like on the Leon Edwards train, like he deserves this, like just because he's quiet and he's not out there making a lot of noise, like he's sort of being overlooked. This is not fair. It did seem a little unfair, I think, the way he was being treated, and still is in a way, but like you said, I don't think that the fight with Chimaev, I don't know even if I'm saying his name right, but like, I don't think it makes sense for any ranked fighter. Like, how are we collectively going to push for a person who has, put together an enormous streak that may or may not be that impactful at the moment, but it's full of veterans and somebody who is up there to fight a guy who has 3 fights in the UFC? Sure, we love Chimaev, but he just got here. Like, he doesn't even go here. Like, he literally has been here for 3 fights. So we can't expect that. But the Stephen Wonderboy Thompson fight, I just thought that it was just a weird move because he kind of painted himself into a corner there. Like, if that's not the fight that he's going to take, which is a visible fight at least. Like, people like Stephen Wonderboy Thompson.
Agreed.
So it just doesn't make any sense to me because what are you thinking you're going to get at this point? Like, you're not going to get Usman. I think he was pushing for Gilbert Burns, and Burns, he is also not dumb. He doesn't want that fight. He feels like he has the title shot. So why is he going to fight Edwards? So yeah, all of this to say that I'm in agreement. I think that the Wonderboy Thompson would have been just a good fight for him right now. And I think, imagine if after all of this, he ends up getting his hand forced to fight Chimaev.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to be sad.
And it was weird because Leon Edwards, in his tweet sort of reacting to being removed from the rankings, kind of hollered at Chimaev as if he was ready to accept it. So I don't really understand, like, if is that all it took? If you were gonna go this far to not take that fight, is a number next to your name being removed going to be the breaking point? I'd like, shout out to Paradigm Sports, great management company, takes good care of their athletes, has found a lot of success. I don't know who exactly is in Leon Edwards' ear in terms of career advice, but something's got to change because it's not going well for him right now.
Yep.
Now, do you have, before we move on to the winners of the week, are there any losers that you wanted to highlight?
I mean, I think, not sure if we call it lose. It seems silly, but that was the whole Mike Perry situation. That was one of the heavy topics of the week that we can't just like go into it, I think, because it's such a delicate situation. But
and I would want to give it more time than we can on this format too.
Yeah, than we can today. But just as a general acknowledgement that his ex-wife, Danielle Nickerson, came out to MMA Junkie accusing him of having physically abused her, assaulted her in the past. And that was obviously, to me, the week's like sort of big news. So I just kind of felt like it had to be acknowledged. But like you said, it's like we're not going to be able to discuss this very difficult subject in 5 minutes. But the interview's there. Like, it was a really thorough interview. And I think Simon Samano, the MMA Junkie editor, and who ended up being the reporter of the story, did like very good work. And just, really went, confirmed with friends, saw pictures, like the whole thing. Like, he did a thorough
good reporting
process.
It's something I don't know if it's because we don't get much real reporting in MMA, but like the people coming out saying, "Oh, you paid her for this," yada yada. Like, this was about as down to the wire fact-based reporting as you've seen in MMA. So the vocal minority of people sort of calling foul play on this just kind of blows my mind. And I actually, on that note, I have 2 fighters. I've only ever had like 2 bad interactions with fighters. One was Joe Schilling during like a pre-fight phoner. And I just got the
Really?
sense Joe doesn't love doing media, so totally get it. But
Yeah,
he did
I
not
got
love.
that too when I interviewed
Yeah, he did
him.
not love me asking about Cowboy. So fair play, fair play. And the other is KO Kid Keith Barry. I don't want to make it about me or give much time of day, but he was one person who sort of retweeted that Mike Perry article and said she's, Danielle Nickerson is starved for attention, chose to be with him, yada yada. We don't need to get into the politics right now, craziness. But
Yeah.
I tweeted at him calling him a scumbag, and now he's apparently on the lookout for me to give me my
Oh
comeuppance.
man.
So I hope I never run into
Okay.
Keith Barry because, he called me a keyboard warrior, and I kept the conversation brief. Just because I know in my heart that you're a scumbag does not mean that you won't beat the living crap out of me. I completely believe that KO Kid Keith Barry would destroy me, as would any other MMA fighter. But doesn't change the
These are not
facts.
mutually exclusive
Yeah, exactly.
concepts.
But I don't know when
Okay,
I'm
now
ever
if
gonna
Shaq
see Keith Barry.
disappears, you heard it here
Yes, if
first.
I
We know what
disappear,
happened.
please go look for Keith Barry. And Sam wants to know, chiming in, are you going to stream the fight? If you mean, am I going to illegally play the UFC 254? If you're talking about Keith Barry and I will definitely stream him murdering me. If I have the option to make a few bucks for Fightful off of it, I will definitely do that. If you mean UFC 254, I don't think we can, but we are exploring the possibility of doing some sort of Fightful companion show to pay-per-view events moving forward. We've got a big online community on our website who gets together in a Discus channel and interacts with about the fight. So I think it'd be nice to come up with some sort of video audio component. Look out for that. Okay, Nanda, let's move on to the big winners of the week. Now, I was kind of looking back and trying to think last 7 days. Obviously, Brian Ortega, tremendous outing for him. Really put together the missing pieces in his game. But since UFC 254 is such a big card, I kind of wanted to focus there. And so I guess my big winners are Khabib and Justin Gaethje. Even pre-fight, this is so monumental. There's so much riding on this fight. Obviously, Khabib is going for the legacy. Justin Gaethje is the best form of his career. But is this one of those fights that you think, at least going into it, is going to stand the test of time?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the few fights that require no drama, right?
Mm-hmm.
We didn't need them to be any louder than they normally are. We didn't the lead up to it has been so tame, so tame. And still and by the way, if you're hearing music, as I told you, I'm in Mexico and there are people in the streets with musical instruments that I don't necessarily recognize. So that might be the thing you're hearing at the moment. It's culture, appreciate it. But going back, I guess, yeah, it's just one of those fights that just really speak for themselves. And I think that, even with the big hype fights like Conor and stuff, I feel like Khabib was such a stylistically challenging opponent for Conor that even if we were looking forward to that fight for many reasons, I feel like there was still that idea that Khabib was a big favorite, that matchup just really favored him. And I just feel like for the first time in a while, I think, and this might just be revisionist history or just the fact that we tend to latch on the most recent memories. But I do feel like this feels like a challenging fight for
Mm-hmm.
Khabib. This feels like just a stylistically interesting fight. This feels like one that we're not necessarily rushing to be Khabib. I mean, I am still picking him, but I'm intrigued. Yeah, so it's just it stood up on its own. It didn't really need anything else. And I think right now, especially with how busy, having fights every week and, the world falling apart and everything, just to capture our attention just simply by being in a fight, that's
Mm-hmm.
a big achievement.
Agreed. And I anytime Khabib and Justin come up, I have to mention that I've been calling Gaethje the biggest threat to Khabib for 3 years now. And that was before he had this huge revolution. And I'm sure the regular listeners are going to stop listening to me because I keep patting myself on the back for this. But if Justin Gaethje wins, I will never let down how right I was about this one thing because I'm wrong just about every other time in MMA.
I'll
Now,
allow it.
yeah, thank
This
you. I
is me
appreciate it.
formally allowing you to rub it in our faces. I will even RT it and make sure that everybody knows
Thank you.
too.
That's the kind of support I'm looking for. Quick shout out to the man with the best mustache in MMA media, Drake Riggs, checking it out. He says, "I
Oh,
think he thinks I could take Keith Barry so long as I utilize the Caleb Starnes game plan and take him to a decision." Drake, I cannot tell you how quickly Keith Barry would murder me. Like, that man has no chin, but I can't punch. I can barely grapple. So I appreciate it. I would love to know though, because it seems like most of, I know a lot of people in media got kind of butthurt when Dana White called us all, dweebs, losers,
wimps.
nerds who could, never hold a candle to any fighter in any situation, which is mostly true. But I wasn't really offended by it, and I think as someone who's been training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for years and has done a little bit of boxing, but I saw a lot of my colleagues who train get really offended by that remark, and I'm just like, don't let them get to you. But I think fans don't realize how many people in the industry do train to various degrees, some of whom train with active fighters. So
Yeah, that is true. I joked about the 145, but I have been doing Muay Thai for 10 years. I'm a blue belt, so who knows? Let's just get enough support,
I would love
and then
an
maybe
MMA
I'll go
media
prove
fight
Dana
night.
White wrong.
Yes, I would love an MMA media fight night. Also, I'm glad I introduced, thank you guys for coping with any sort of tech difficulties, but I've been trying to introduce, a one shot and two shot. And while the camera was on you, I somehow managed to spill my coffee on me, the microphone, the keyboard, just a little bit, but I got a good splatter going. All right,
Oh
here we are.
man.
And so
It
I will use
happens.
this interlude to also note the scratch on my face in case I told Nanda I was going to talk about it right off the front so you guys could stop looking at it. Jagged fingernail, jiu-jitsu, it happens. Shout out to Zach, who says he would love to see Justin win, but he'll likely be decimated. That's a really good note to segue on because I want to talk about the sentimental favorites going into UFC 254. But before we do, reminder, guys, hit subscribe. It does a lot for us. Like, notification bell. And this is a really dirty move by me, but I'm going to a funeral right after this. So maybe a little super chat donation could warm up my heart.
That is terrible. Oh my god, what have I signed myself up for?
I'm going to support a friend. It's not a funeral for anyone in my family. And I'm just kidding, guys. I need to donate.
Oh, so that makes it okay.
I know. It's the MMA game. It's a dirty business. You use what you can to get ahead. Donate to the super chat. I'm so sorry, guys. All right. Let's get to it. UFC 254 preview. Second last thing on our agenda today. These are the fights that I get most anxious about. And this Khabib versus Justin Gaethje fight reminds me of Cormier versus Miocic. The reason is I know who I want to win, like as a fan who I want to win. And that's Justin Gaethje. But at the same time, I don't want to take away Khabib's perfect record. He's so close to achieving 30-0, getting that last super fight and calling it a career should he decide to do so. After the death of his father, like there's so many, this is such a story-rich fight, right? And it's not predicated on drama. It's predicated on what Justin and Khabib have been able to achieve in their professional, personal lives. So like, I want Justin to win, but I also want Khabib to win. And I wanted Miocic to win because he's one of my favorite fighters, but I wanted Daniel Cormier to retire victorious. For you personally, obviously this is going to differ person to person. Who is your sentimental favorite?
That is like a really good question because I was talking about this with my boyfriend yesterday. We were watching the embeddeds and I was just saying like that I can't explain why. Like, for people who are not familiar with me, I'm that person who's always like, I don't stick to sports. If a person is problematic, I will stop liking them for the most part. And Gaethje and Khabib both have problematic things happening. So I think that evens itself out. Gaethje didn't. And then the Trump thing, let's not go into it. But then when he showed up with Trump, I was like, But taking away all of that, like I find myself, I'm kind of like you in that I think that Justin becoming a UFC champion, evolving to the point
Yes.
past that fighter that a lot of
Yes.
people dismiss them as, becoming UFC champion. Like he took his parents there, like they're traveling internationally for the first time. And, like it would be such a good quintessential MMA story for
Mhm.
Justin Gaethje to become a champion that I do find it very alluring, like just from a storytelling point of view. But at the same time, like, I just can't bring myself to not want Khabib to win. And I kind of think that part of it is just nostalgia. Like, as an MMA fan, I've gotten so used to seeing Khabib win that it's become sort of like part
Yeah.
of my core as a person. Like, I don't know how everything's changing so fast. I need to keep this one thing. And I'm like you said, like, I think with the passing of his father. And uh, honestly, like Khabib to me just comes across as a genuine person. Like
Mhm.
even in interviews and stuff, he doesn't say a lot, but when he says a thing, like it seems like he means
Yeah.
it. Like I don't want to talk about this. Okay, rude, but fair.
Did,
Uh,
sorry to interrupt.
sorry,
Did
go
you
ahead.
see him playing pool with the guy from BT Sport? There is
No, I
such
did
a good
not.
BT Sport kills it. They're the ones who did the the little animation celebrating
Hmm.
Habib's journey with his late father. The guy, I'm sorry, I don't know his name. The guy from BT Sport did an interview with Habib, and they played pool or billiards while they did it. So, and Habib, he wouldn't use the cue ball. He'd like hit the 8 into the 4, and obviously no one's gonna tell him otherwise. It was
That's
fascinating.
not
So
how pool
yeah,
works.
Habib, great UFC fighter, MMA fighter, not such a great pool player. But sorry to cut you off.
Happens. No, no, it's that adds to the whole beep thing. I mean, I'm a bad pole player and fighter, so I mean, he's already got that on me.
For
So
sure.
good on you. I'm sure that's the positive reinforcement you needed today. So I kind of want to root for Justin, but if I'm gonna be really honest with myself and everyone, Habib is probably in my heart of hearts, my
Hmm.
sentimental favorite.
Yeah, that is fair. Thank you guys for being so active in the live chat today. Again, it lets me know that everything's running smoothly. You soothe my paranoid brain and heart. Um, Zach wants to note the WWE Undisputed title in the background. Yes. And I am working on building a bit of like a mobile set that I can roll in behind me with shelves and stuff. So I'm looking forward to proudly displaying everything in my collection instead of like half a UFC poster behind me, a corner of a title belt, and like the handles of some katanas over here. It's a work in progress. We're going to get there. Let's move
I
on to.
like it though.
Yeah.
I think it's minimalistic. Like
Yeah,
it's
Aaron
not
Bronstetter from
cluttered.
TSN keeps ragging on me about it though, and I am too much of a wimp to not take that as good via. Plus, I trust TSN's Aaron Bronstetter with my life when it comes to MMA media, so I take his words very seriously. And don't worry, Aaron, it's on its way. Patience is key. Now, okay, let's touch on point number 2 here. Robert Whittaker versus Jen. Oh, thank you for liking the overlay graphic. Sound of Violence. That is all our graphics team. I have no artistic vision, so I tell them what I kind of want, and then they absolutely blow me away with everything that they do. I'm more of a copy and paste kind of guy myself. Now, point number 2. This one is kind of intriguing to me. Robert Whittaker versus Jared Cannonier. Obviously, Robert Whittaker, he came off that very one-sided loss to Israel Adesanya for his middleweight title, bounces back in an impressive but close fight against Darren Till, and now has the chance to turn away the rising supernova interstellar soul creature that is Jared Cannonier. It's been very interesting getting to see what he's like during this UFC 254 build-up. If
Yep.
Robert Whittaker wins, so we know for a fact if Jared Cannonier wins, he is getting the next UFC middleweight title shot. Israel and UFC President Dana White have not necessarily said the same about Robert Whittaker. Do you think with a win over Jared Cannonier, he gets the title shot? Is it dependent on how the fight goes? And if not him, who?
I think it is dependent on how the fight goes because of the next question, if not who. Like, I think you could maybe make a case for, say, Hermanson if he beats Still, because he would
Mm-hmm.
be on a 2-fight winning streak.
Yes.
But then at the same time, he lost very decisive to Jared. So, like Personally, as a big irrational Jack Hermanson fan, I just love the man. I just think he's
Yo,
amazing. I have
I
probably
love
his
Jack
only
Hermanson
fan.
so much.
Oh, really?
He is
I
probably one of my
love
favorite
it.
fighter. He like I love using the Joker team when I interviewed him off the record. I'm like, hey, can you like please tell me how to make this work? Jack's awesome. And he's so nice. He is such a nice guy.
Yeah, I've only interviewed him like in person once
Mm.
because he fought in Brazil a couple of times and he was super nice. But my boyfriend mocks me all the time because he's like, you're probably the only person in the universe rooting for a Jack Hermanson title shot. So take that, boyfriend. Am not.
Hey,
But
hey, remember
returning to this.
he's the one who set up this lovely camera and mic situation for you.
Yeah.
So
And
remember
his
his work.
background, that's all him, and it makes me sound
I love it.
sophisticated and well read. But I think that Whittaker, he would have a better claim. Uh, Even though, like you said, that's the thing, right? That's the thing that I think turns a lot of people off. We were expecting this amazing battle with Adesanya and we didn't get it. But we also know he was like dealing with a bunch of issues.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously he had that performance with Till. And I think, you can argue both ways. Like people will, those who don't think that he should be getting a title shot say, well, we just saw him fight Adesanya and we saw how that went. So what is there to be gained from a rematch here? Like, why would I want to watch that fight? But at the same time, it's kind of like he's the ex-champion. He's the guy who's fought the top the entire time. Like if he's not fighting the champion in the very top, who else is he fighting? And if he beats Cannonier, and that's when I think the how comes in. Like I feel like if it's a close fight, people might still want to argue against it, but if he does it decisively against a guy who has been on a streak of his own and who I don't even know like now what the lines look like, but last I checked they were pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
But like who people actually believe can beat Whittaker,
Yeah.
like I don't know.
I think
Honestly,
Whittaker
it's
might have
just a
been the
complicated
underdog
situation.
actually at one point, or was a pick'em.
Yeah, I think it was close. I was listening, what was it, Dan Tom's podcast?
Mm-hmm.
Back
Shout
then
out to Dan
when he
Tom.
was recording, who's just like an amazing analyst.
Amazing.
Like whenever I feel like I want to feel smart, I just listen to him and say what he said. But
I do the
but
same.
yeah,
with
so
Thomas.
it's just it's just a complicated situation. Like I personally think that a good win by Whittaker, even a not so good win, but like if he wins decisively, I don't really see anyone else. I don't know how you feel about that.
Gonna go to the live chat real quick. Joseph says if Whittaker wins, he should. Joseph's one of our day oneers, so shout out to Joseph. If Whittaker wins, he should get Adesanya. All signs point that Izzy doesn't want the rematch. I kind of get it from Izzy's point of view. I doubt he is intimidated by Whittaker or fears that it'll go differently a second time. I just think Adesanya really knows what he wants out of his legacy, and I think he probably considers a Whittaker rematch at this point kind of a sidestep. At least Izzy seems like he has a very meticulous game plan of what he wants to achieve in the sport, and that includes clearing out the entire division. I'm not sure he sees Robert Whittaker right now after the first fight was so one-sided as a guy he needs to prove he can beat again. I think it might just feel like wasted time. Now, if let's say Adesanya gets a couple more title wins, Whittaker continues a winning streak, and it's really a big deal, like, oh, it could be different this time, I think Adesanya would be down for that rematch. And Joseph also wants to ask about our thoughts on the ongoing pissing contest between Conor and Dana. Joseph, we did talk about it near the top of the show. You might want to rewind after, but actually, to kind of go off of that, Brian Campbell over at Morning Combat, CBS Sports, Showtime, etc., had a theory that the reason Conor is sort of folding to all of Dana's demands regarding the contingencies on this fight is that, and this is completely a theory, that Dana White is going to announce a Zuffa boxing match between Conor McGregor and Manny Pacquiao, dependent on, Conor going through with this fight with Dustin Poirier. I don't know if it's true. No one knows if it's true, but, interesting. Fernanda's not a fan.
No, I don't. I hear Zuffa boxing and like I sign out. Like
no, that's totally fair.
But yeah, sorry, that's a valid argument. I'm interested and intrigued.
Interesting theory.
Yeah, it's an interesting theory. I'll say that, but like I'm peeved by both Zuffa boxing and MMA fighters and boxers at this point. Like just the general concept. Unless it's Clarissa Shields and Amanda Nunes, then I can roll with that.
Fair. That's fair. I like that. Sound of Violence says Cannonier is currently a -110 favorite over Whittaker's plus 100, which is super weird to me. I would take those odds, but please don't go off of my gambling advice. And Laguzzi TV wants to know how much is left. I'm not sure what you mean by that, but let me know and we will answer your question to the best of our abilities. Now, while we got everyone's attention, last time I'm going to ask, subscribe, hit like, tap the notification bell. That's my 3 times per show quota. Really appreciate you guys being so active today. This might be the most active live chat we've ever had. You care to donate to the super chat.
My presence.
Really, it truly it is. Truly it is. Nick Baldwin. I'm gonna out Nick Baldwin of the score here. He's like, hey, Shak, I was gonna ask you, when are you gonna invite me onto the show? And then I saw that you had Shaheen Al-Shadi, and I realized I had no chance. I'm like, Nick, we're gonna get to you, but right now I need to leech off the star power of the likes of Shaheen Al-Shadi and Fernanda Prates. And Aaron Bronstetter and James Lynch. I got to really shoot up right now to get this thing off the ground, but Nikki B is on the way, and it will be a disaster because him and I have no chemistry, and that's why I love him so much.
Really?
No, we do.
Oh, now I have to watch.
Together. I just love Nick.
I love Nick
okay,
too.
Last point.
I mean, he's a child, and bothers me.
It's fascinating. Sorry. He's truly a child. Like, he got into this industry when he was like a prepubescent teen. And he's tall. Yep. Don't let his like rosy cheeks and I don't know if you've ever met Nick in person. Don't let his rosy cheeks and his
we hung out in
baby
Toronto.
Face fool you. The man is tall. He towers over me. It's insane.
He looks like an adult in person, and he's awesome. But I do not like accomplished young people because I'm an unaccomplished 31-year-old. So it makes me feel bad, and that's entirely more of a me thing than a them thing. But
Sound of Violence says, shout out to Nick of MMA Circus fame. That is an old school reference, and I like that. And Joseph says, as far as I know, all fights are still on for tomorrow, despite having 3 backup fighters weigh in early this morning. That is true. Although there is a rumor that one of Ion Kutelaba's cornermen might have tested positive for COVID. I think, please don't go off that. I remember hearing it briefly on Morning Combat. I don't know. But that'd be so funny. I'd be so sad. I was up so late last night. Like, please just show up to the scale.
No.
Why are you taking so long to do this? And Laguzzi wants to know how much time left for Khabib's fight. I mean, he's weird. He like not he's weird, but retirement at 30-0 was a thing that even he seems to be sort of conflicted about right now. 1 minute he's like, yeah, that's the plan. 1 minute he's like, why are you guys asking me about my retirement? Which, if I were, because he did tell an interviewer that, like, why do you guys keep asking me about my retirement? Well, with all due respect, Khabib, you may go down as the single greatest UFC fighter of all time, and I think people want to know how long they can appreciate and enjoy your art for. What do you guys think?
And he's the kind of guy, like, when he says, like, I'm going to retire, we're going to believe him. Like, he doesn't seem like the kind of person who's just going to throw that out there. And also he looks like the kind, like, if he has said, I'm not fighting anymore, I'm done, I would be like, yeah, that makes sense. And if he fights for another 5 years, I'm going to be like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Wow, we got a lot of questions today, which I love. So we might go a minute or two over if that's okay with you, Nanda.
Yeah.
Okay. Sound of Violence. Oh, sorry. No, Laguzzi also wants to know, how do you think Khabib and Justin Gaethje win their fights? I am no analyst. Far from it. I think Justin... I think Khabib's too safe and too deliberate to get caught early. If anything, I imagine Justin will win a war of attrition on the feet. You know, Khabib's style is very endurance heavy. It's very taxing. He often takes round 3 off to sort of refill that gas tank. And it's possible that he had a rough weight cut. Read into that towel situation as much or as little as you'd like. And I think for Khabib, it's the same way it always is. He's got to get Justin grounded, and eventually he will get a submission or a decision. What about you? What do you think?
I'm terrible at breaking down fights. I have to, like, I'm a terrible analyst. 10 years into this and I haven't learned. So I think it's done. Like, I think that's not a skill I'm going to pick up on. But I would say, like, and that's the thing with Khabib, right? We know exactly what he's going to try to do. And it's all a matter of how quickly is he going to be able to get it done. And this, I think because Gaethje is like, just savvier and obviously has the wrestling credentials. I think the first round might be more problematic for Khabib than other fights, but I do think ultimately he's just gonna do like what he does. Like, just the pressure is gonna be too much, and he's gonna Khabib Gaethje, like, basically. And I know it's lazy and uninspired, but it's what I can offer.
Yeah, no, I understand. There are so many more capable analysts than us when it comes to the fight game itself. Luke Thomas, Dan Hardy, Caposa.
Yeah.
There's a million of them. We are not those people.
Yeah. Bad jokes, though.
Jokes.
I'm your girl.
Yeah. Look, I'm basically turning this YouTube channel when I'm not on it into like a react channel or a storytelling channel for fire sell crazy shit. So if you want entertainment and slapstick, go to Brian Campbell and then come to me. In that order, but that's what we can offer you here. And Joseph, last question, says, would it be crazy if Khabib versus Justin happened and they had Chandler fly halfway across the world basically for nothing? No, I think it makes total sense. One, you needed this backup because this isn't just any pay-per-view card. This is the biggest card of the year, and so you needed to have that main event. You can't have Khabib's such a big global star right now. It may not always feel that way in North America, but he's got a huge following. And on top of that, I think this is actually really, really good promo for Michael Chandler. And this is how you get a new fighter who you think could be a top 5, top 10 guy into as many eyeballs as possible. There is no other circumstance under which Michael Chandler would have gotten this much press attention. He's there for the biggest fight of the year. His name is tied with the two champions, and he's getting media time. So I think it's a win-win for Chandler either way.
I agree with you. And it's interesting because I've heard a lot of the UFC, like when a fight falls through, especially a big fight, like, the UFC should have backups for all of them. That's impossible. Mm-hmm. We know that. But if you're going to have a backup for any fight, this is the fight to have a backup for. And totally on board with you there with Chandler, because that's the thing, right? We know who Chandler is. He was really attached to the Bellator image for a really long time. We know he's a great fighter, but I don't, Tony Ferguson joked, and of course it was an exaggeration, about like how Chandler has, 100,000 Twitter followers or something, but that's the reality of it, right? How many people outside of our MMA bubble are going to react to Michael Chandler's name the minute we say it? Mm-hmm. So this is an opportunity, totally there with you, of introducing him, getting himself out there. So yeah, I think it's just whatever happens, it's just like makes perfect sense.
Okay, and that is our we'll get to it super quick. The last thing on UFC 254 is, let's just keep this yes or no because we don't have a whole lot of time to get into it. Coming off that Alistair Overeem loss, is Alexander Volkov too big of a step up for Walt Harris right now until we see where he's at?
Yes or no with pressure? Okay, I'm just gonna answer heavyweights.
Anything can happen.
Heavyweight. The short answer to me is like, no. I would say Volkov. I'm picking him. I think he's just a superior fighter technically in the striking department, which is where Harris kind of like sees himself as a highlight, like where he sort of believes he exceeds. But I think Volkov is the favorite, but no, I don't think that's such a big undertaking for Harris. I wouldn't be surprised if he won.
Yeah, well, the way I look at it is Volkov's only two losses in recent memory are Curtis Blades and Derek Lewis, and he was winning 99.9% of the Lewis fight, and Blades is one of the top 3 guys in the division. Walt looked good early against Alistair Overeem, but the man has been through so much. I would love to see him get a bit of a gimme fight. Just like, he's doing so much advocacy right now too outside of the UFC. It's clear that his attention is rightfully split. I would have liked to see that him get an easier fight than a main card spot on the biggest pay-per-view of the year against a guy who he probably should be the underdog against. I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit of a disservice to him, but if he wins, it'll be so cathartic, and I'm 100% rooting for him. Okay, last thing, Nanda. And this is the first time I've given the guest a chance to prepare for this because it's been a disaster every time I haven't. Do you have an embarrassing story locked and ready to go?
It's not a story. It's a fact.
Okay, wait.
That might ruin my career.
Okay,
Well,
okay. So
I've talked about it, but I'm joking. But
wait, we're gonna flip a coin. You call it. If you win, I tell a story. If you lose, you tell a story. Deal?
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna give you an out here because I need you to come back in like a couple months and do this again. So I don't want to drain you of all your good stories. Okay, heads or tails?
That makes sense. Tails.
It's tails. Okay. I keep losing these, and I don't know how long this segment is gonna survive if I keep having to tell my stories. So I'm not gonna go embarrassing, but I'm gonna go with one of the most disappointing moments in my media career. It was UFC 244, New York, Masvidal, Diaz, Donald Trump in the house, The Rock in the house. And I want to say it was maybe Thursday, it was media day, something like that. And afterwards, I was with the Submission Radio guys. Shout out to Casper and Dennis. Truly the nicest people in MMA media.
Yeah.
And
awesome.
They said that they were
incredibly smart too.
Incredibly smart. They work so hard. They're just the total package. And they said, "Hey, we're going to Hooters to upload our content." It was the closest place with food and Wi-Fi. Now, they did not invite me, but even at the time, I kind of knew it was implied, like, you're welcome to tag along. But it was my second time meeting them. I didn't want to overstep. It's that Canadian kindness that I got in my soul. And so, since I didn't get a formal invitation, I didn't want to insert myself into their date, so to speak. So I go to the nearby the subway station under Madison Square Garden. I sit on the floor, fending off, trying to keep my conversations with the homeless population brief because I really need to get these videos up. And then I'm happy to talk for as long as they'd like. So I'm sitting on the floor of a subway station, uploading my content, while those guys are at Hooters, enjoying some wings, getting their work done. And I didn't think too much of it. Until I look on Instagram and they have a photo with Hot Ones Sean Evans, one of my favorite interviewers in any medium. And I fucking kicked myself to this day. Like, I would have killed to meet Sean. I don't fanboy much, but I would have killed to meet Sean Evans. And I didn't go when I knew I had the opportunity and I was welcome to go. And I'm sitting here on a subway station floor while they're chit-chatting with my idol. Also, Sean Evans, you eat hot wings for a living. Why are you at Hooters?
that was the part that was kind of like, I mean, I'm a vegetarian, but like I know enough about the ways of the world to be shocked by this affirmation. I'm so sorry. I could feel the heartbreak in your voice as you retold it. So I can only imagine living it.
Yeah. The only thing that upset me more is if I missed a chance to meet David Tennant from Doctor Who, but that's a separate conversation. Okay, Fernanda, you got off scot-free this time. Yes. But next time,
I imagine people like, what is this so embarrassing thing that would
career ruining? Career? That's the sort of hook you want to keep people on. So they tune in week after week. So
stay tuned for next time.
Yes. All right, guys. Drake Riggs, last comment. He says, "Legendary Fight Week. Truly, thank you for tuning in, buddy. Love the work you do. Please go check Drake out on Twitter if you don't already." Fernanda, thank you so much for your time. Is there anything you want to leave people with before I do the outro?
No, thank you for having me. If you want to check out my work, like just quick plug, I'm at Fenbite. I do pre-fight guides that are absolutely insane. And if you're insane too, you might like them. I have a podcast called Bass Camp of My Life. It just started 2 episodes in. So you can catch it early on and say you were a fan before I get super famous. Yes. And I'm on Twitter at Prates _. So that's it.
That's day one for the win. All right, guys. Fightful MMA. Subscribe, hit like, tap the notification bell. Tune in next week. We'll have timestamps up as quickly as we can get it. It'll be on audio platforms as soon as we can get it up. Stay safe, guys. Enjoy this awesome fight week. We don't always get them, but this is truly a great one. Peace out. Fightful